Hello everyone. So our next topic would be noting charges. Sir, what happens in case of noting charges? What are noting charges? Let us understand here with an example. Let's say we have Mr. A who sold 10,000 worth of goods to Mr. B. So he sold the goods on 1/1/2021. So he gave a 3 months of credit period. So in that case, your term of the bill would be on 1/4/2021. If we add 3 plus days as grace, so then 4th of April 2021 is called as our due date. Yes or no? Now, so on 4th of April 2021, Mr. A approaches Mr. B and Mr. B failed to pay the amount. So in that case, the bill is said to be dishonored. If drawee fails to pay the amount on the bill upon due date, the bill is said to be dishonored. Yes or no? So in that case, as the bill was dishonored, to take a legal action, Mr. A approaches a notary public. A notary public who can be called as an advocate. An advocate would be acting as a notary public, where Mr. A would approach notary public for the purpose, for what purpose? For the purpose of recording the facts. For the purpose of recording the facts of dishonor. So this process of recording the facts of dishonor is called noting. Sir, what is the meaning of noting, sir? Noting is a procedure adopted when a bill of exchange is dishonored for the purpose of non-acceptance or non-payment of a bill. In case of a dishonor of a bill, the holder of the bill may approach the holder of the bill may resort a legal action by getting the facts noted. For this purpose of noting the facts, Mr. A would approach a notary public, where this notary public would charge a commission or a fee for the purpose of recording these facts. So this amount or fee which is paid to the notary public is called noting charges. So noting charges are nothing but the fee which is paid to the notary public for what purpose? For recording the facts or noting the facts. Yes or no? Now, let us understand. Noting charges can be paid or will be paid. A noting charges if paid by the drawer. A noting charges can be paid by the endorsee. The noting charges can be paid by the banker. Yes or no? Yes or no? Now, let us understand. If a bill is retained with the drawer, till the due date and the bill is dishonored. So in that case, as Mr. Drawer is retaining with him till the due date, so on due date, for the purpose of recording the facts, Mr. A is paying the noting charges. First scenario. And if the drawer of the bill endorses the bill to the endorsee, and on the due date, Mr. Endorsee or Mr. X in our example would approach Mr. B, and Mr. B is failed to pay the amount and the bill is said to be dishonored. So, as Mr. X is the holder of the bill, he would approach notary public for what purpose? For recording the facts of dishonor, to take a legal action. So noting charges paid by endorsee, or noting charges can be paid by the bank if a bill is discounted with the banker, and on the due date if the banker approaches Mr. B and Mr. B failed to payment. In that case, the bill is said to be dishonored, and Mr. SBI approaches the notary public for what purpose? For recording the facts of dishonor to take a legal action. So, noting charges can be paid by Mr. Drawer, noting charges can be paid by endorsee, noting charges can be paid by the banker. Yes or no? So, these noting charges are paid for what purpose? The noting charges are paid only because the bill was dishonored. So that is nothing but we are paying. These three people are paying the noting charges only because of non-payment of the amount by Mr. B. Because of non-payment of amount on the bill by Mr. B only, so these three people are going to pay the noting charges. Yes or no? Because of non-payment of by Mr. Droy. Now, so what are the journal entries? What are the journal entries in the books of various parties if the noting charges are paid by different parties? Okay, next, continue. So, transaction in the books of Drawer, in the books of Droy, in the books of endorsee, in the books of the bank. So that means what are the journal entries in the books of Drawer in case of noting charges paid by Drawer? What are the journal entries in the books of Droy if it is paid by Drawer, or if it is paid by endorsee or bank? So let us understand in detail. So if the noting charges are paid by the Drawer, okay, now who is paying Mr. Drawer? Who is paying Mr. Drawer? Yes or no? So as Mr. Drawer is paying, what is the journal entry? So as the cash is going out of the business, so to cash account. As the cash is going out of the business, so we are crediting the cash account, and as he is paying this noting charges, so these noting charges are to be receivable from Mr. B. Yes or no? So whose fault is it? Mr. B's fault, because he is not paying the amount on the bill. Then the bill is dishonored, and in that case only Mr. A paid the amount. So whose expense should it be? Mr. B's. Yes or no? Because it is his fault that the amount was not paid. So as these are the expenses of the drawee, as these expenses of drawee are paid by the drawer, so in the future Mr. Drawer will receive that noting charges amount which is paid from the drawee. Yes or no? So that is the reason. So as Mr. Drawer need to receive the amount from drawee, we are increasing the drawee account by treating him as a debtor. So what is the journal entry? Drawee account debit to cash account. So as we are supposed to receive from Mr. Drawee, we are debiting drawee account. As he paid cash, we are crediting the cash account. Yes or no? Next. So what is the journal entry in the books of Drawee upon the noting charges paid by Drawer? What is the journal entry, sir? So these expenses which are paid by the Drawer are nothing but the expenses of drawer. Yes or no? Whose expenses was it? Mr. B, that is our drawer. So all expenses should be debited. So noting charges account debit to whom he need to pay? Mr. Drawer. Drawer account. Now, what is the journal entry in the books of endorsee upon noting charges paid by drawer, sir? Nothing, because nothing would be affected in the books of endorsee and no entry in the books of the banks, because nothing would be affected in the books of endorsee or bank. Next one. If the noting charges are paid by endorsee, who is paying? Endorsee. Whose expenses was it? Drawee. Yes or no? So who is paying? Endorsee. So as endorsee, as Mr. X is paying notary charges to the notary public, so Mr. X would receive the amount from Mr. A and Mr. A would receive from Mr. B. Yes or no? So as Mr. X is nothing but endorsee, as endorsee is paying the notary charges, Mr. Endorsee would receive that amount from the drawer and the drawer would receive that same amount from drawee. Yes or no? So what is the journal entry? The journal entry would be drawee account debit to whom he need to pay? Endorsee account. You are raising the drawee account because you need to receive from him. You are recording endorsee, you are crediting endorsee account because you need to pay to endorsee. Okay, next one. Sir, what is the journal entry in the books of drawee? What is the journal entry in the books of drawee when the noting charges are paid by endorsee? What is the journal entry, sir? Now, so as endorsee is paying the noting charges, whose expense was it? Mr. Drawee's. Yes or no? So as these are nothing but the expenses of drawee, so all expenses should be debited. So noting charges. Noting charges account debit. Okay. 2. Mr. B is going to pay the amount to Mr. A and A need to pay to X. Yes or no? Now, so Mr. B is paying to whom? Mr. A. So what is the journal entry? As the drawee need to pay the noting charges which are paid by Mr. Endorsee to Mr. Drawer, what is the journal entry, sir? The journal entry would be noting charges are debited because it is an expense and drawer account is credited because the drawee is going to pay to drawer and the drawer would be paying to endorsee. Okay. Now, let us continue. Sir, what is the journal entry in the books of endorsee? What is the journal entry in the books of endorsee upon noting charges paid by endorsee? So, as endorsee is paying the cash, what is the journal entry, sir? Upon payment of cash, as cash is going out, so to cash account. What need to be debited, sir? What need to be debited? So, as the amount, as the noting charges was paid by endorsee, endorsee is going to receive from whom? Mr. Drawer. Yes or no? So from whom Mr. Endorsee is going to collect that amount, sir? Mr. Endorsee is going to collect the amount from the endorser. So what is the journal entry? Endorser account debit to cash account. Yes or no? As he is going to receive from endorser, so he raised the account by treating him as a debtor. As the cash is going out, so he has created the cash account. Now, what is the journal entry in the books of bank? As nothing would be affected in the books of bank, so no journal entry. Next one, let's continue. If noting charges are paid by bank, if noting charges are paid by bank? Let us understand. So as the noting charges are paid by the bank, so Mr. Drawer need to pay to the bank, and he is supposed to receive from the drawee. So he is going to receive from the drawee and he is going to pay to the bank. So he is going to receive from the drawee and he is going to pay to the banker. Yes or no? So what is the journal entry? The journal entry would be drawee account debit to bank account. So what is the journal entry in the books of drawee when the noting charges are paid by the bank, sir? What is the journal entry? As these noting charges are the expenses of the drawee, the expenses should be debited. So noting charges account debit. To whom he need to pay? He need to pay to the drawer. So to drawer account. So what is the journal entry in the books of endorsee upon noting charges paid by the bank, sir? The journal entry would be no entry, because nothing would be affected in the books of endorsee. Now, sir, what is the journal entry in the books of the bank upon payment of noting charges? What is the journal entry, sir? As cash is going out, so to cash account, as it is going out, we are crediting the cash, and the banker, from whom is he going to collect, sir? The banker is going to collect it from the drawer. Yes or no? So what is the journal entry? The drawer, or we can say, so in our case, as it should be drawer account debit, but as the banker upon discounting itself, he is not giving the cash to the customer, he is just raising the account. Yes or no? So in that case, instead of recording it as a drawer, so he would be reducing the customer's account by debiting the customer account. So what is the journal entry in the books of bank upon noting charges paid by the bank, sir? The journal entry would be customer account debit to cash. The customer account would be decreased by debiting his account. Upon payment, the customer account was credited. Now, as the customer's account need to be decreased, it is debited. So these are the journal entries in the books of various parties. These are the journal entries in the case of, in the various parties in case of noting charges. Sir, what is the meaning of noting charges? Noting is a procedure which is adopted if a bill is dishonored. In case of a dishonor of a bill, the holder of the bill may resort to legal action by noting the facts of dishonor. For the purpose of taking a legal action, so the holder of the bill would be paying noting charges to the notary public for the purpose of recording the facts of the dishonor. So either it can be paid by drawer, endorsee, or bank. Yes or no? Now let us understand. So upon noting charges, whatever may be the case in the books of drawer, drawee account is always debited. In case of noting charges, whatever may be the case, in the books of drawer, the drawee account is always debited, because drawer is going to receive from drawee and he is treating him as a debtor. And the person who paid the amount is credited. And the person, so in case of endorsee, as endorsee is paying the amount, endorsee is credited. In case if it is paid by the bank, as banker is paying, so the banker is credited. Yes or no? Now let us continue. So in the books of drawee, Upon paying noting charges by whatever may be the case, in case of noting charges in the books of drawee, whatever may be the case, the noting charges is always debited, because noting charges are the expense of the drawee. As noting charges are the expenses of a drawee, whatever may be the case, the noting charges are debited in the books of drawee, and the drawee account is always credited, because drawee is supposed to pay to the drawer. As a drawee is going to pay to Mr. Drawee, so the drawee account is credited by treating him as a creditor. Yes or no? So this is your logic behind your noting charges. I hope you all understood. Thank you very much.